As a candidate, one of the topics I get asked about pretty often is gun ownership. This is a very important topic, and I'd like to take a few minutes to answer it and share where I stand on gun ownership and what legislation I think would help make our communities safer. Arizona has some of the weakest laws in regards to gun sense legislation, and I would like to see our state move in a different direction. In Arizona, as in the United States, people are legally allowed to own guns. That being said, I think there should be specific standards put into place along the lines of sensible gun use and ownership. It is a tricky balance to enact state laws that will create safer communities for all Arizonans while allowing local county and city governments to put into place policies and practices specific to their communities. For example, I do not believe that weapons should be allowed in any academic institutions like our schools and college campuses. I am glad we have a state law for this. It is a safety measure that makes sense. However, if a city institutes a buyback program, creating incentives for citizens to voluntarily sell their guns to the city, I do not believe that the state has any business interfering with what happens when the city takes ownership of those guns, especially if such measures are meant to create a safer community. Gun sense advocates often talk about loopholes in the laws. There are a few that impact Arizona directly: the gun show loophole and the boyfriend loophole. One of the ways to address the gun show loophole would be to pass a law that requires universal background checks. I think that universal background checks should be conducted prior to every sale or transfer of a firearm, no matter who is orchestrating the sale. In Arizona, private sellers are not required to conduct background checks, which is what creates a loophole in federal law, particularly for sales at gun shows. Many firearms are sold at gun shows by private sellers. Along with universal background checks prior to completing any sale, I support legislation regulating and requiring a mandatory waiting period for at least 3 business days. It would allow time to verify that the customer is not a prohibited person. In regards to intimate partner violence and prohibited persons, Arizona needs to pass legislation that mirrors federal law. This would allow state officials to enforce laws prohibiting people convicted of domestic violent misdemeanors from owning and carrying firearms. Because the state law is not clearly defined and is hard to enforce, this loophole has been named the boyfriend loophole. And last, red flag laws are another way to curb gun violence. Right now, there is nothing in place without a court order to keep firearms away from a person who is struggling with mental health challenges. Red flag laws allow friends and family members to intervene for a short period of time in order for a person to receive treatment. If Arizona would enact these sensible gun safety laws, I believe that our state would be taking a proactive stance in curbing gun violence. Because I am a mom who cares deeply about her family's safety, it is an easy jump to care about the safety of all our children. In regards to our gun sense laws, I believe Arizona can do better.